Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Welcome back to Get Your Shit Together podcast with Yana Kasperczak. And today you're tuning in to yet another amazing episode of our special series, Your Journey of Becoming from Dreaming to Doing. This is where real women share their real life stories, all of the messy, the magical, the middle part of becoming who they're meant to be, because this is the truth. And the reality is that your dream life does not start when everything is perfect. It starts when everything is messy. And the moment that you say, I am done playing small, when you've had enough and ready to do what it takes once and for all, and stop dreaming and start doing. And if you are ready to say that today, that you're ready to stop dreaming and start doing, grab your coffee, light your candle, and let's dive in. Because today I'm joined by Radha Dalal, who is a marriage and family therapist associate and a founder of Pink Rose Therapy. She helps women, couples, and families navigate people pleasing, burnout, relationships, and South Asian family dynamics with more self trust and healthier boundaries. Her work blends narrative therapy, mindfulness, and relational healing to support more of the authentic and empowering type of living. So, Rod, I know we already started talking about people pleasing, and I know we'll get right into that, but I always love to start off this each and every episode with a question that relates right to the title and topic of the podcast, which is all about getting your shit together. And this is something that you literally watched me do and struggle to try to connect for us to go live on Facebook, and that was not working. So here we are recording this, even though it was supposed to be live, and me then expressing what I was going through. And that was you literally witnessing me getting my shit together. But I want to bring in your journey in a way of how, like, when it comes to you getting your shit together and you going through life and realizing so many different things, and one of those things often turns out to be the way that we're living, the life that we're living, that it's not really ours, that it's the program that we've somehow received and accepted, and now we're not living that life. So when did you realize that the life that you were living wasn't actually yours?
Mm, that's such a good question. Thank you so much for having me. And
Oh, no
hi,
problem.
unicorns. Um, I think I think it comes in waves. I think the first time I realized that I wasn't living my own life or that I wasn't owning my own life was probably in my 20s, like after college. I think even in college, I was pretty much in the program. And then after college, I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? And, I decided to get my first master's degree. And even then, I was going through the motions. It was what I wanted. It wasn't the typical career path for someone who's South Asian or Indian. Wasn't an engineer or a
Scientist
doctor.
or a doctor,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it was more in the mental health field, which is somewhat accepted or getting there, but not
Mhm.
necessarily as accepted as other professions. And although I was doing what I wanted to do, I was doing it in a way that I thought I should be doing it, if that makes sense. Like it
Yes.
was like I wanted to do it, but it also had to look a certain way and it had
Yes.
to on the outside. And it becomes this game. It gets so blurry and confusing because it becomes this game of like, I think this is what other people think. And because I think that, I'm going to do that. And you get lost in all these voices and these thoughts and
Yes.
stories
Yep.
that are not even your own and not even what you want. And you're trying to please this expectation that's, first of all, never going to get pleased. And second of all, it's not is not even that expectation because I think a lot of people that I work with right now are folks who are figuring out if and when they want to get married and how they get married. And, there's a lot of pressure and probably in several communities, not only our community, but to get married and to have a family and to start a life. And you can still do all of those things, which is wonderful and great, especially if that's what you truly want.
Yeah.
But people are still going to have judgments and opinions
Isn't that
when you
true?
get
Like,
them done.
no, listen, no matter what you do, no matter what you say across the board, we were even talking about Betty White. Betty White is awesome. She's fun, but there's people who don't like her. Why?
Yeah.
Just because they need someone not to like. So no matter what we do, no matter how amazing we are, how much we bend over backwards for people, there are going to be people who will not like us or respect us or not understand us. So
hmm
what was that for you, like going through this experience?
I think it was hard because you want to make people happy,
Yes.
especially as a recovering people pleaser myself, like, being the youngest, being in the family that I had. I was so loved and so cared for, and that was so appreciated. And at the same time, I sometimes misunderstood that I had to prove my worth and I
Mm,
had to prove my value. And the only way I could be loved is if I kept the peace or if I made
mm,
sure everyone else was okay. And so there was like a condition on being loved. Um, Whether my parents did that on purpose or not on purpose, or society did that on purpose or not, like not even to blame, but just that's how I was programmed and that's what I thought to
yeah.
be true, that I had to do X, Y, and Z. And as long as I did X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z, I would be loved and I would be cared for and everything
Hmm.
would be okay. And then there came a point where I would do X, Y, and Z and I didn't feel the love and I didn't feel cared for and I didn't feel like I knew what was going on and I didn't feel like I was in control. And I was like,
Yeah. The
why am
system is
I like,
crumbling, right?
why am I doing this? What am I doing this? Who am I doing this for?
Hmm.
And that's kind of when the first shift began where I was like, okay, I'm doing these things. It's not making sense. I'm trying to make up plans every Friday night. I'm trying to go to every party. I'm trying to wear a new outfit. I'm trying to, meet new people. And I think that's great and that's wonderful. But there came a point where it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I just kept doing
Yeah.
it. And that's when, we talk a little bit about the voice and the trust and the intuition. And it's like, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. I'm doing what I think everybody else wants me doing. I'm doing what I think I should be doing. But then it's not what I think. It's
Mm.
just go like just being part of the crowd, which is, I think, okay, I think there is a time and place for that.
Oh
But
yeah.
it got to the point where I wasn't feeling good about myself. I wasn't functioning as well at my job. I wasn't functioning as well in my relationships. I was putting my own growth on the back burner to keep up with
Yeah.
something I didn't even want
Facade.
to keep up with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like climbing the ladder. That's what it sounds like what you were describing. It's like you have these programs within you that are telling you what you should be doing, what you're supposed to be doing, all the shoulds, the coulds, the must have, must and have to, or else. That's what usually follows that. And that's why we do it because we're doing it essentially out of fear. And then when it
Yeah.
comes to then working on ourselves, we avoid doing those things because the fear is actually that much more prominent because we're doing those things for ourselves, but it's easier to do those things for other people.
Yeah. It is.
And we can change much easier for other people or initially start changing for people. This is what I've
Mm,
also recognized, whether it's
mm,
women like you that I speak with on this podcast or my clients, is one thing I see across the board is this pattern. which is normal. This is how we humans are meant to exist. This is how every animal exists, is we're born, which means we're born, we're not really awake yet, we're still in a dream programmable state, and we're going through life being programmed by everyone that's around us. Everything they say to us, we take it as the truth without questioning it, and that becomes our program and it runs us. And then as teenagers we become to wake up a little bit, and that's why in our 20s then we actually like awaken spiritually, and
Yeah.
we start to recognize everything, and that's when we start to really change our life, for better or for worse. But what happens is through this teenage years, we're trying what everybody else is doing. We're trying what we should be doing, what we have to be doing. We're trying these things. We're doing and figuring out because, well, there is some truth to it because others done it and it worked for them. It's similar
Mhm.
to like anyone. Like I'm sure you have some programs, right? As I do. In my program might not work for everyone. It doesn't fit everyone. Just like all these recommendations that are coming to us that are now our program, we go through life living it out, testing it out, not liking it, then waking up and then feeling bad about all the experience we've done unconsciously because nobody told us that this is how we do things. And then when we start to change and become a better, like work towards ourselves, or essentially fix us because we feel broken,
Mhm.
we start doing it for someone else, but we continue doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why this life, we started it essentially for
Yeah.
someone else and tested it out. But initially, eventually, we get to a point where we do this thing for ourselves. And
Yeah.
sometimes that can help us, and sometimes that can, take things away from us. And as we're going through all of these stages of life and evolution, as I refer to it as spiritual awakening, is what we awaken to the next level of ourselves. We, I believe in this death and rebirth of the self. And I know in some cultures, it's also even seen that when you go to sleep and you wake up, you go through death and rebirth. And that's why we
Mm.
don't even know what programs are going to stay behind us based on the day and the days that we, we lived through and went to sleep, and some things stay and some things get cleaned out of our minds that we
Yeah.
went through that day. And as we're going through this death and rebirth, I know that in order for this version of you to live, to be here right now, there was a version of you that had to essentially die and you had to let go
Mm.
of. What
Mm.
was that version of you that had to die so that woman that you are today
Mm.
could finally live and thrive?
Yeah. I think a lot of it was I had to stop numbing myself. Like
Mm,
I had to let go of the version of me that was numbing, whether that was with alcohol, whether that was with scrolling, whether that was with TV, whether that was living in
yeah.
other people's problems or lives versus my own.
Hmm.
Um, I think it had to really, I mean, to be honest, of course, I still numb here to there, but to the amount of numbing that I would do has drastically reduced. And I think that was the biggest shift when I stopped numbing. And I also kind of forced myself. I moved states. So I lived with my parents for a long time, and then I had a lot of friends, and we were all like just connected. There was always something going on. I also come from a very big extended family. We lived like very close to each other, same city or nearby city. So there was always a birthday, an anniversary, an event. But when I moved states, I was no longer required or expected to go to every birthday party or every event because I was in another state. And so that distance, like there was also only so much you can numb, like my options to numb were limiting, which was good. And at that point, I had to make a decision. I could find new ways to numb, or I could really start looking at myself and I could really do the work, and whether that was waking up early, whether that was going for a walk, whether that was actually, Like I'm the type of person that's kind of always been good at my job. Um, but did I want to be great? And so like was I willing to put in that work to be great? Like I could
Mhm.
be half asleep and do my job good and nobody would say anything. But if I wanted to step up and get to the next level and grow, I had to put in the work and refine my talents and refine my skills and put myself in positions where I could speak to people that intimidated me, where I could also be like, oh, yeah, this is what I did. This is what's great. This is my idea. Like, I had to start being cringe to be able to step into this version. And it's, there's still waves, there are still doubts, and there's still numbs, and there's still like hesitation. Um,
Yeah.
but I had to really make a decision that, hey, I have to be okay with the unco with the discomfort.
Yeah. I I don't think it really fully goes away for everyone. Like even when, and I think that's what makes people that when people choose a certain career path, this is what I think actually makes them great at what they do, is that there's always that space for growth, evolution, and improvement that we can never become numb because the moment that you become numb, that's the moment you should quit. Like I've heard this a few times, even some shows. I love Netflix, so this is one of my ways how I numb myself. But at the same time, I hear and I pay attention to
There's a
human,
balance.
right? And there is definitely a balance. And every day that balance is going to be a little bit different because some days if I am under the weather, I'm going to do less physically and more watching, right?
Mhm.
But this is where it's like I said, it is a balance. About finding that balance for ourselves on daily basis. Even though we want to wake up always feeling balanced, always feeling great, that doesn't happen. We're humans. Yes, it happens. We do wake up that way, but there's going to be days when we don't, because those are the days that
Mhm.
we're meant to find a new balance and perhaps a new way of being. And we're meant to, I believe humans are also meant to be adventurous. Like we're meant for adventure and adventure. My understanding, my definition of adventure is going to be a little bit different than yours.
Yeah,
Like skydiving is not something that I would consider adventurous. Would that be something that you would consider adventurous?
I would, but I'm scared to do
But
it.
would it be something that you would actually consider doing? Would that be on your bucket list of wanting to do, or
Mm.
would that not be?
It would be. It would be on my
See?
bucket list.
For
Yeah.
me, it wouldn't be on my bucket list. One day it might end up, but now there's so many other things I'd rather experience that are on the ground,
I mean, valid.
right? So that's where it's like our, even right here, our sense of adventure is a little bit different. I would watch someone do
Mhm.
it, but I don't think I would, even just the thought of like, I'm a visual person. I'll get some images and I can see myself like standing at this edge of the helicopter and my knees like just crumbling. I went tree trekking. It's like zip lining through,
Oh,
yeah. And there was one
cute.
part where we had to jump onto the net and it was far away. We were tied up and everything, and I just could not do it. My knees were so weak and literally my calves, everything. And then it just traveled slowly up my body and it was like getting down. And in the end, I almost like tumbled off the thing, ended up hurting myself. So this is also what we end up doing is by resisting growth because I would have grown a lot if I did do that. And I know that, but I will admit I don't have the balls for that. And I'm okay not having the balls for that.
Yeah.
At least for now. One day I might or might never, and I'm okay with that. But okay, so now as we're continue with your journey becoming, because I know I can get sidetracked and we can talk about other things really quickly, but I
Sure.
like to stay on point with focusing on your journey so I can get the best out of you and out of your story as well. Now, as we're also living the life that we're living, that is full of what is true and the truths
Mm.
and a bunch of lies. What
Mm.
would you say was the biggest lie you were living that
Ooh,
felt normal until it broke you?
ooh, good question. I think for me, and I think this is a lesson I'm still learning, if I'm being fully transparent, is I think we talked a little bit about numbing.
Hmm.
Another way I like to phrase numbing is energy leaking.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, where my energy leaking or energy vampires or whatever you want to call it is gossip. I think
Oof.
sometimes
Yeah.
we confuse, or I can speak for myself, I confuse gossip for connection. And there's definitely a balance in venting and safe spaces and trying to figure something out versus actually gossiping to gossip and to hurt someone else's feelings or to
Mm,
maybe make yourself I think sometimes we think we're making ourselves feel better by gossiping about this person.
yeah.
But what I find for myself is like maybe for an instant you feel better, but then afterwards, I just feel so icky and so drained. And it's almost like you keep regurgitating these words that
Yeah.
are not helpful to that person or to yourself.
Hmm.
I think growing up, that's part of the process, but after your prefrontal lobe and your prefrontal cortex is fully formed, it just no longer makes sense to gossip, in my opinion. And I think um, talking about other people doesn't make you important. So, like, that's the biggest lie.
Hmm. I think based on my observations through life with people that gossip, personally, I never ever liked it. I found it to be draining. But
So
like you
draining.
said, it's almost like part of our growth and development, and until certain parts of us are fully grown and developed, that we do that, that help us and in some capacities. But it's many are not aware they're doing it because they've never
Yeah.
grown up, right? Because nobody addressed it, nobody pointed that out to them. And this is how I've said bye to a couple of my friends who were gossiping about their previous friends and talking shit, because the moment that I would stand up for the other person that I've never met, that's the moment that how dare you, you know what I mean? It's like it goes in that way where you don't even know, and of course I don't, and I can't say that. So sitting there listening, it's exhausting, but at the same time that is numbing because the information is not even going in, and it becomes draining. Like you said, it is numbing,
So draining. So
it is
draining.
energy leaking. So do you still have that in your life, like those kind of people that are draining, gossipy?
Um, yes and no. I think they're no longer a part of my life in a daily basis.
Mm,
And there are certain people now that still might be part of my life, but I have a lot better boundaries
yeah.
with them. And I think they've learned not to make certain comments. And when they
Yeah.
do, it's my job to either step away or my
Hmm.
job to advocate, right? Context matters. And sometimes someone's upset and let them be upset. I don't have to
Hmm.
participate. And sometimes it's important to stand up. I think I'm a big believer of choose your battles, and you don't need to fight every battle. It's
Nice.
not going to break the patriarchy. It's not going to break the system. If you know what I mean, you have to pick and choose your battles. And so I think remembering that for myself and giving myself permission to pause and not engage has protected my energy so much more.
And how well did they take it? You setting those boundaries in place,
Surprisingly well. I think when we give people the benefit of the doubt,
right? And how scared were you putting those boundaries in place?
yeah, I felt like I wouldn't belong. I felt like
Yeah.
they're
You're
not
gonna
going to tell me
die.
anything or like, yeah, I'm like, yeah.
It does feel like death when we were about to. I feel like when we're about to level up, and I'm sure you would recognize this as well, every time you're about to level up, because life is really like a video game, and we gotta level up
Mhm.
and we gotta go on these side quests, we gotta go figure out, and this is what we did in the first part. When all of these side quests that everybody gave us as, oh, you should do this, you should do that, and those are side quests. And we can either punish ourselves for doing those things, or we can say, well, that shit was fun. Now, not that fun. Let me do my own side quest. Let me come up with my own creative ideas and let's see how crazy they can get. And I'll show you. And I'll give you my ideas, see how well you like those. And you
Yeah.
go on this journey and you come out on the other side where right before you're about to level up, you're gonna go through this breakdown moment where it will feel like I'm about to die. Even like setting a boundary, this is where the that voice in our head goes to. We're gonna die, don't do it. And the reality is no one has died from that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Nobody has died
Yeah.
from speaking their truth unless you're in the mafia. Well, that's different, right? Some mafia movies and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so how many times would you say that you've done things that were like terrifying only to find yourself on the other side better than you found yourself?
Oh, so many times. I don't think I can even count.
Yeah.
Um, so many times. You
What's the one
know,
time that you
like,
really remember that stands out to you the most?
um, I think during my wedding planning, I had to really stand up for myself and what I wanted, and
Mm,
also stand up for my partner and what we wanted. And it was really hard. And I had a really good situation where I actually feel like my parents understand me and are willing to communicate.
mm.
But the people pleaser in me is I wanted everyone to be happy and I didn't want to
Of
disappoint
course,
anyone.
right?
And, it's such a family dynamic but like, when you get married and the way that I view it is now I have a new first family. So I view me and my
Yes.
husband as our first family. And, my parents are obviously still my family and a huge part of me, but I had to really choose us
Yeah.
first. And even within us, I had to choose me first. And that was really, really, really hard to do. But once I did it, and I stopped over explaining and stopped trying to make sure everyone was okay. I was still considerate, but I wasn't like overdoing it. That's when the shift happened, and I stopped tiring myself out from doing all these extra things that nobody needed me to do.
Yeah. And what was the result in the end?
It was good. It was good. I
Mm.
was able to, I don't think everyone is always as lucky, but I was able to hold certain boundaries and able to express what I needed. And I didn't always get what I needed, but I was able to express and accept the result and not try to manipulate or over control the situation.
Yeah, and that's sometimes hard to do, to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Initially, it's hard for everyone to do
Yeah.
because we're taught not to throughout our childhood, little by little, where we're not speaking up for ourselves anymore. And then we learn to people please from a young age because then we are lovable. Because we're all in many ways, and this is the program, not just your parents got or my parents, it was passed down generation after
Yeah.
generation after generation. And w- I'm not here to blame who started the snowball first. I'm here to simply remind everyone that just because the program is there does not mean it's a bad program
Yeah.
or that it needs to be entirely rewritten or that you're stuck with it. Because often we feel like, oh, it is what it is. This is how things are now. I just, need to accept it. No, if you don't want to accept it, don't accept it.
Yeah.
Like, Rada, if you accepted everything when it came to the wedding and the way that everything was working out, would you have been happy in the end?
No,
Where would you be if you did accept it?
I would be happy. I would know that my voice counted and that I was able to express myself.
Hmm.
I think that's the part that is so annoying. It's as much as we want the result, it's a journey and the opportunity to express myself like, hey, at least I tried. At least I put myself out there. At least
Yeah.
people know how I feel. And the result is honestly not up to me or up to my parents or even up to you or those who are listening.
Hmm.
The result, you know, is, for those who believe in a higher power is a destiny. It's God. I will never have full control of the result. I have full control over my actions, over my behavior, what I choose to think, how I choose to express myself. And
Hmm.
that's what matters.
Yeah. Very true. In other words, like we can only control ourselves and no one else. And just trusting the process that everything will work out in the way that it's meant to, as long as we keep leveling up,
Mhm.
whatever that means. For some, like some women that I work with, leveling up for them literally is to get out of bed, take a
Yeah,
shower, and do a little bit of energy work. Like,
yeah,
and maybe get out for a walk, a short
yeah,
walk, right? Because the body is in pain. Because when we don't heal the trauma will show up through pain in the body.
yeah,
And for some, that is like literally what getting their shit together is like every day. For others, it's running a multi-million dollar business, right? And then others, there's also like Tony Robbins. And if we
yeah.
are sitting here thinking that Tony Robbins has a perfect life and he doesn't have any problems or issues and
He does.
doesn't go up and down with energy. Of course he does. He's a human being. We can't look at people as if they're gods or something, right? Even gods, I would imagine, still have some feelings and emotions and
Yeah,
would express it, right? So when for all of us as we're going through life, there's that moment, as I mentioned even in the intro, where we get to the stage where we've had enough of the suffering, because the pain is one thing, but the suffering, that's of the mind. The pain we can't always do
yeah,
something about, right? Pain is inevitable, but
yeah,
suffering is optional. So
yeah,
when enough is enough, the way that I understand is when we're done with the suffering, and it also always comes down to there is going to be suffering essentially, or either permanently or temporarily, whether we choose to stay the same or we choose to change. But the
yeah,
way that we are pushed to finally change is when the pain of staying the same is greater and bigger than the pain of change. Because right now, those that are not
yeah,
changing is because that pain of changing is so much more
yeah,
painful. Um, but it comes down to that moment that, you know, the tip of the iceberg on top, where
yeah.
for you, what was your enough is enough moment where you knew you either change or you stay stuck?
Mm. I think for me, it was the realization that I was living, I kind of known this, but it kind of came more to the forefront, but that I was living everyone else's life and I
Mm,
wasn't living my own. Kind of like I wasn't even the main character in my own life. I was just so focused
yeah,
on everyone else and what was happening and being in the know. And they were getting to live their life. They were getting to be the main character. And then I was like, well, what about me? And so I could continue to play on the sidelines and be safe,
of course.
but I just didn't feel good. It just wasn't, what I wanted. And I had to admit that. I had to be like radically honest with myself and radically responsible and be like, I'm the one who's choosing to actively participate in other people's lives. Sure, maybe people are pulling me in, but I'm letting them and I'm allowing it. And so
Mm.
when I took that responsibility and removed the blame, um, and I think that was the thing. I would blame myself and I would shame myself. But the shift also happened when I stopped blaming and I started taking responsibility because that's more empowering. That's what allows action. That's what allows you to be comfortable in the discomfort to make change. The only reason people don't want to change is because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. We like where we are because it's familiar. Even if it's an abusive relationship, a toxic relationship, an
Yep.
unhealthy relationship, we're familiar. We know what to expect.
Exactly. It's
But to be in
comfortable.
something new,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's empowering and you're the main character, it feels weird. It
Because
feels cringy.
exactly. Because what experience do you have with that, right? Like
Exactly.
walking into that big dark cave. So,
hmm
what did you do to make the changes in your life?
they sound really unsexy and, they're super micro, but I'm really into affirmations and I always was in affirmations and I don't have it with me, but I literally took a sticky note and I
Hmm.
wrote down, to, I'm committed to trusting God more than I trust myself. And I literally wrote it down and I put it on a sticky note. I put it under one of my crystals in my room. And then that was like the first kind of declaration I made. And then I started, um, I would talk about all these things and, preach all these things, but I started practicing what I was preaching. And so what I would
Yeah.
also do is I had no phone zones. So I wouldn't allow myself to, I I changed my phone alarm to like one of those little clock alarms, like those little digital clock alarms in the
Okay.
morning. So the first thing I did in the morning was not my phone. I had my clock alarm. And I would play music from my laptop and I would disconnect like iMessage and everything. So it would just be my laptop and it would just be music. And I would meditate for 5 minutes every
Hmm.
morning before work. And I would not look at my phone until I had gotten ready and had my tea. So I didn't use my phone till after I was ready. And that sounds so silly and so dumb, but it was my voice in the morning. It was the meditation in the morning. It was the prayers in the morning. And it wasn't Instagram. It wasn't strangers. It wasn't influencers. It wasn't, the WhatsApp groups. It wasn't BuzzFeed or whatever. It was my voice. And I was dedicated to this practice day after day after day after day. And it was mundane. It was small. It felt weird. And like I literally would like put my phone in a drawer because I didn't want to get out of bed to open the drawer and get the phone. I made it so easy to stay committed
Yeah.
to this plan. And then from there, it was just small actions, small steps of just like, okay, what am I saying to myself? Okay, let me try this journaling thing. What is it that I want? Do I want this? Does my mom want this? Does society want this? Does my neighbor want this? What is it that I actually want? And it
Hmm.
was just having those conversations with myself without the noise. We live in a very noisy world, and it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to fall back into those patterns because we need to stay connected, but we're so connected that we become disconnected
Yeah. Oh,
and
I agree.
dysregulated.
Yeah, and we're all have we end up feeling like we have to be always on, like always on. And we have a 16-year-old and almost 13-year-old, and I can't even imagine what it's like for them because they grew up in this digital world. I
Yeah,
didn't. My husband didn't.
same.
I was outside. I was climbing trees, like I kid you not, I was climbing
You weren't
trees.
allowed to be at home. People would
No,
be like,
exactly.
why are you at home? Go outside. Like you were not allowed to be at home
Unless it was bad
until,
weather.
yeah, unless it was bad weather or the sun went down. Like you should be
Yes.
outside.
That was the clock. And even like didn't have watches, nothing. How did I know to get home? Well, when those street lights come on, you come home. And then when you're playing, you're busy, you don't see it. And then you come inside the house and your mom goes, "Look outside. Did you not see it was dark?" No, because and this is also how we're now as adults, we don't see when we're in the darkness. We're
Yeah.
literally, because it's like, you know that example of if you throw a frog right into boiling water, it'll jump out, but if you slowly boil it, like when we are going down that slippery slope and losing ourselves, we don't recognize it. We don't notice it
Yeah.
until it's essentially too late, but it's not too late, right? We already
Yeah.
find ourselves in there, even though it's not too late. But then we do get ourselves out of it as well. None of us are the princesses sitting in a tower waiting for, to be rescued from our own pet dragon. Like, why would you want to come and kill my dragon anyways? Like,
Yeah.
leave my reptile alone. Right? Become friends with it. Um, Now, on this journey, we're also, as I said earlier, like we are losing ourselves, right? We lose ourselves, we find ourselves, we lose ourselves, we find ourselves, and eventually we find ourselves almost fully, but parts of ourselves will continue to rediscover and rebuild and recreate and redesign because we all get bored, let's be honest, right? Anything can keep our attention only for so long until we're like, okay, well, on to the next one and try something a little bit different. Even when it comes to the business that you started initially and how you started, is it the same way as you're doing everything now?
No.
It, it's changed and it's grown, it's evolved alongside you. So, as we're going through this life that we call our journey, what would you say that what did you lose on your journey that you actually did not even expect to grieve?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think I don't know how to put it into words, but like I kind of mentioned with gossip and being in the know and being the first person to know everything. Um, I'm okay with not being the first person to know and or the second person or the third person. And honestly, you don't really know if you're the first person. I just thought I was. And now I'm like, I can be the last. I could even not know. It's not relevant. It's just other people's like even I have a favorite saying, other people's opinions are none of my business.
Yeah.
Even if it has to do with me, it's none of my business. That's cool. Like I just really do not care. Like the older and older I get, I really do not care about what other
Yeah.
people think because they're not paying my bills. They're not living my life. They're not having the conflict that I'm navigating. They're not putting in the effort into my relationships. And I think with that same quote, my other favorite quote is the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener wherever you water it. And I
Yeah.
know because I used to water everyone else's grass. And that's great. And I think I still can and I still do, but I water my grass first.
Yeah. And then I know as a therapist, one thing that you would teach people do is how to teach them how to water their own grass as well, because that's important. We can learn to water our own grass. We can help other people to water their grass, but in the end, I believe it's all of our responsibility to help others in learning how they can do it themselves. It's like uh, that quote where you can give a man a fish and feed him for a night, or you can teach him how to fish and he can feed himself for the rest of his life. So it's a similar concept of like the grass is greener where you water it. And it is so true. We got to stop looking at everybody else's lawns and look at our own and water that and help others to do the same. And by language is the word that comes to mind is I feel like this is going to be like the word that really gets people attention. It's language is witchcraft. It's in
Mm.
the way of
It spells,
it
yeah.
is spells. It is magic spells. You're following a magic spell by those who are gossiping. And if you're listening and you like to gossip or you have people on your left that gossip, what they're really doing is they're bringing more of those experiences into their life. This is the magic spell that they're calling in. This is what they're asking for, and they will have more of those things. And I also witnessed that happen because that friend ended up losing me because I simply cannot be around that. I had to choose me, and she did not know how to be any other way. Because having
Yeah.
these kind of, to me, those are surface conversations because they don't matter. Gossiping doesn't matter. It does not change anything aside from the person that is listening and the person that is talking by magnetizing, bringing all that stuff in. We're all like magnets, and whatever we say will happen.
Mm.
And sometimes it happens like this. And sometimes I laugh about it because I'm like, well, good thing it happens with when it comes to stupid things really quickly. But what about all the other things that are really great things? Like example, on the weekend, we're renovating our bathroom, and my husband was fixing something with mud where you fill in the holes, and we have this tool standing there for cutting tiles. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I hope he doesn't get it dirty. And then long and behold, which didn't take very long, and then you have to hold. He got it dirty right there in front of my eyes as I'm like just finished thinking about it. And I'm like out loud say manifesting. My husband
I
already knows
love
what to expect from me. He goes, "Okay, what are we manifesting now?" And I explained to him, and then obviously it's like, "Okay, well, this little thing works. Now let's apply it to other things in life." Um, what would you say was the most amazing thing that you have manifested in your life through alignment?
it.
Because that's really how we manifest.
That's a really good question.
I'm full of those.
Oh, I love it. I think honestly, the relationship with my parents.
Mm,
I've always had a good relationship, um, but to really show up in my relationship as me and not who I thought they wanted me to be, that has been the biggest game changer. And I really owe that to my husband because I think that opened me up to really be me even more. And I'm very attached to my parents, and I probably have more work to do. But to be able to share my perspective, my opinion, what I want, and to really think about like, no, like that's actually what I want has been such a big game changer. Because I know we care so much about what other people think
yeah.
in so many of our cultures, and I know we talked about it. But it's like also when it's family. And if we live with that family, what does that look like? Because that becomes a lot of our own stories. And so, me being able to create my own story and shift that has been the best manifestation for me. And also allow them to live their life. Like, as much as they want certain things from me, they also want me to be happy. And so, what does that, I get to choose what does that happiness look like?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And as a parent, I can say we all want certain things for our kids because we see potential in our kids. But it's not just kids, it's our clients, the people we meet. We see potential in them, but it's a potential that we are able to see, which, as you and I were talking earlier, it's all about mirrors. What we see in other people is really what we see in ourselves. So the potential that we're seeing it of what we would do, what I would do if I was living that life, while that person sees their own potential, which might be similar or might have nothing to do with potential that somebody else would be seeing, like myself. and they get to choose what to do with their potential. Right? Your parents might have seen the potential of you becoming a doctor, and you're like, no, I'm going to be a doctor of the brain, but in a different way. I'm not going to be cutting, no incisions, no blood necessary. I'm just going to dissect them and help them and understanding themselves from a distance.
Yeah.
Different kind of a brain surgeon, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
give ourselves any label we want,
Yeah.
especially in this day and age, right? You can
Yeah.
become a what do you call them? I don't even know what it's called. It's like where you can move things with your hands. Forgot what it's called. Um, telekinesis,
Oh, telekinesis.
right? It's kind
Yeah.
of like telekinesis, and you can move things around and help people from a distance. Now, earlier I mentioned, since this is all about getting your shit together and how I was, you watched me get my shit together, I would love for you to share with the ladies who are listening, what does getting your shit together actually look like in your life now, in real life?
Yeah. Honestly, it is a lot of the same things. It is cutting out the noise. So
Mhm.
I'm very strict with my phone usage. And so I have like no phone zone. So no phone in the
Yeah.
kitchen, no phone in the bathroom. I do have my phone in my bedroom, but I put it in a drawer because again, if it's next to me, I will use it. And, you know, it's for me figuring out what works for me. And, it's like taking my vitamins. My mornings look a little different because of my puppy. So I take my vitamins at night. And that was like the biggest shift. So I take it every day. And in addition to that, it's kind of what you talked about earlier, but it's getting ready, it's walking, and I really believe in priorities. And so I have certain days designated for today's marketing, today's admin, today is seeing clients, today is fun. So each day is kind of set up. And so I have systems that I fall into, and each system has certain priorities, and I make it not I have to, but I get to. And these are like I get to do these priorities today. These are the things that I'm going to do today. And everything else just happens when it happens. I think getting really, really clear on what's important in this season of my life. And the season of my life for me is my health. So that's really, really prioritizing my meal planning and nutrition. That's really prioritizing making sure I have time for walks and working out and making sure I have time to go to the salt room or get a massage or see my friends. The more for me, the more social I am, and spending time with quality people and quality time, it makes me feel good and it makes me easier
Yeah.
to keep up with my daily tasks. And my second priority are my clients, making sure I'm showing up for them in the way that I can hold space, being really curious, being really, empathetic, really understanding. And while I have all these expertise, I have two master's degrees and I've read the textbooks and I've ran the groups and I have over 5,000 hours in coaching experience and da 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 da, right?
Mhm.
My client is still the expert on their life. They spend every single minute with themselves. They know themselves. So when I bring that curiosity and giving them the opportunity to come up with their own solutions, which are always going to be better than my solutions,
Right?
is when I do the real work. And I remind them that the real magic of therapy, the real magic of coaching is outside of our session. It's when you de-escalate an argument, is when you reach for a meditation versus 3 boxes of Oreos, right? It's when you pause
Yeah.
when you get a text message that's not urgent. That's the real magic, right? That's the real
Yes.
micro shift. That's the sustainability. And so, you know, I enjoy learning and I continue to learn. And there are so many tools in my toolbox that I love to share.
Mhm.
But when my client comes up with their own tool, that's always, always, always going to be better than whatever I have to share with them.
Because we all like our own ideas. We don't like nobody else's ideas. That's the rebel in all of us. We want to do
Mhm.
what we want to do, and we're not going to hear what somebody else. And when I was going through coach training, we were even given examples of clients that when the solution was given to them, they wouldn't do anything about it. But when they would come
Exactly.
up with that same solution, even if it's word for word, then they actually would do something about it. We sell ourselves in that. And I love asking this question, especially like closer to the end, because it really shows everyone, allows everyone to see and hear how all of us are getting our shit together. And our brain tells us it needs to be this really big, massive thing. It is not. Like Radha, you said it's all about the tiny little macro things, right? They're small, they're seemingly invisible. One of the ways I
Yeah.
started to get my shit together after losing myself and my mind and being on meds and off meds, postpartum depression turned into depression. Our first pregnancy, we lost twin girls.
Mm.
And then our daughter was born a month early. Our son, I got in a car accident with him a month before he was born. He was born early as
Mm.
well. So it's like all these little things that they catch up with us and they make us who we are. And we get to rediscover ourselves after that. So
Yeah.
after all of these little things, and then the way that Russian women are raised is you're tough, you're strong, you don't need no one, you can do everything, right? Never asking for help, that kind of way, in a very masculine way, let's be honest. And that shit doesn't help. So I didn't ask no one for help, and it was only my sister who recognized the signs of me spiraling and going into depression because
Okay.
she works with mommies and babies aftercare, and she
Mm.
just
She knew.
she read it in the text. She called me, and that's when the system just broke down because when we're finally seen, it's something magical. But the way that we start getting our shit together is little by little. When I started to climb out of
Mm.
that swamp, because felt like a swamp where the nose is just barely above the water, for me, it was brushing my teeth and just getting out of the house.
Yeah.
Like, or doing something with my hair, or changing my clothes out
Mhm.
of pajamas. Do I change my clothes out of pajamas every single day? No, because I like my pajama days sometimes. Usually they're like on the weekend, and sometimes maybe one day during the week if I'm able to, because it's really nice. Because I have that
Yeah.
ability. But the rest of the time, it's really nice to really put an effort into ourselves.
Yeah.
And what really inspired me to put an effort into my own appearance in my own house, because when you work from home you don't have to, like, how many people work from home and they're still wearing pajamas at the bottom? I know I still do
Hmm.
once in a while. So I watched this video of an older gentleman, and he was always like dressed, I refer to it as spiffy, in the suit and the tie and
Yes.
the hat, and like literally a character. And he loves that because his what he was coming where he was coming from was, you only get to live once. And why would you not want to dress up for life? Why would you not want to take care
Mm.
of yourself? And don't
Mm.
you feel good when you dress up, when you're ready to go to a party, even if there's no party? Of course you
Yeah.
do. So when we stop doing that, what's the opposite? We don't feel good. We feel
Yeah.
neglected. But we feel neglected because we do that to ourselves, for ourselves, so we can find ourselves. So I love that you said and shared all these little things. And I know for many people, putting the phone away, that's not a little thing. Like, no phone in the kitchen. You said that. I'm like, not in my kitchen.
Yeah.
We watch the phone in my kitchen when we cook in the bathroom. That would be a great rule because I don't even bring the phone to the bathroom. I rarely do. I just like to sit there with the business, right? That's
Yeah.
what we're supposed to be doing, focusing on our business and not be distracted. So, um, and in the bedroom, same thing. And in the mornings, I'm pretty sure you probably heard of the 20-minute rule in the morning. For
Hmm.
the first 20 minutes, just you, nothing else, no one else. And that's the scariest thing to so many people. That's why they wake up and they're instantly on their device,
Yeah.
already escaping their life. Because that's what it is. Numbing ourselves, escaping.
Yeah.
It's I don't want
It's
to
like
be,
20 people in your bedroom, though, if you think about it. Like, would
or
you share a
more.
bed or more? Would you share a bed with that many people?
No,
It's
thank
meant to
you.
be, right? It's meant to be your sacred space.
Yeah. And we wouldn't want to bring all those 20 people and wouldn't even know what energy they carry.
Hmm.
Because what we see online is rarely the reality. It's the reality that we want to see, but
Hmm.
it's rarely the actual reality. Now, I know there's going to be every woman that's listening is gonna connect and want to hear something that will help her to really shift. And I would love for you to share with that woman that's listening right now that is feeling stuck in the dreaming, stuck in the doubting, in the overthinking, overanalyzing phase, as I'm sure you know what that's like.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah.
What would you say to her that might finally get her to move that
Mm.
she is not ready to hear?
Mm. I'm like really in the unsexy era.
Hmm,
Um, and it's the things that no one can see. No one's gonna know if you're taking your vitamins or drinking your two
yeah,
water bottles or going on your hot girl walks or your workout or whatever. It's like I would tell you if you're feeling stuck, it's okay to feel stuck. That's part of the process. Like own that, recognize that, and you already know what to do. So like
yeah,
pull into that trust. Go drop into silence. Listen to yourself. What is that one thing? Not the 10 things, not the 15 things, not the things that take a month. What is that one thing that you can do tonight before midnight that is going to move the needle, right? For me, it sounded so silly, but it was really figuring out when to take my vitamins. I take my vitamins regularly, and I thought I had to take it in the morning and I had to do this. I
mhm,
can take it at night. I set a timer right after dinner. I take my vitamins. What is
mhm,
that one thing for you? Is it every time you put on chapstick, you say an affirmation to yourself? Is it that step in the sun for 2 minutes, that you put your feet on the grass? What is that one thing that you can do today that makes you feel more like you? You know what it is. Trust, 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 trust. Give yourself permission to play, to explore. You're not a robot. You're not AI. You can play, you can mix with it and do it. Do that one thing and do that one thing over and over and over and over. I use this all the time and I say this all the time to my clients, but if you are familiar with young kids or have a young kid or have nieces, nephews, whatever, when a little kid is learning how to walk, they fall down 200, 300 times
yeah,
before they can actually walk.
mhm,
And now, do any of us look at this little child and it's like, oh my God, that baby's so stupid. He can't even walk yet. Like, does
right.
anyone ever, ever, ever think that? No,
No,
no. And so, same thing with you. If you are trying something new, if you're building a skill, it takes time. It
yeah,
takes practice. It is so, so, so unsexy, but you have to do it over and over and over and over. And no one is watching you. You're not getting the likes. You're not getting the
yeah,
view. You're not getting the star rating. You're not getting the grade. You're not getting the paycheck. You do it for you.
yeah. And you feel good after you do it for you.
Mm.
So don't do it for the applauses from others. Don't do it to look good in front of others. Do it to feel good in front of yourself because this is at the end of the day, this is who you got to answer to. All of us, we answer to the highest authority, and that's the one that's looking in the
Mhm.
mirror.
Mhm.
And that's why so many people struggle to look themselves in the eye in the mirror.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
One of the things I did through my practices. This is where you're talking about tools. We pick up tools, our clients pick up tools, and we pick up tools from our clients as well. And this tool of literally having a conversation with yourself in the mirror and just saying, I love you. When I did that for the first time, I realized I can't remember the last time I've really looked myself in the eyes and said
Mm.
I love you to myself. And I cried because part of me knew that I was lying.
Yeah.
And there's no fake it till you make it when it comes to that shit. It doesn't work. It's all about doing the little things every day that move the needle, like you said, and doing it consistently and persistently. We all have
Hmm.
those qualities. We do that already in one part of our life. So if we can do that in one part, we can do it in all the parts. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of
Yeah.
focusing. And most importantly, I would say remembering, because we humans, we tend to forget
Mm.
things more often than we remember them.
Yeah.
And I like to remind myself, kind of like as a joke, when I do remember things that I've forgotten. It's like, well, how many times does a human need to forget, as myself, in order for her to finally remember and never forget? I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's see. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Because that's the answer that I don't really have, and I won't have. None of us will, because it's going to change and it's going to be different
Yeah.
for different things that we do.
I love that. And I think it's that reminder that, like, especially for our people pleasers, you're already so good at pleasing everyone else. You're already so good at being kind to everyone else. You're already so good at being considerate to everyone else. You're already the
Yes.
best friend. You are the hype girl. You already have it. So it's just like you said, shifting that strength, that energy towards yourself,
Yeah.
looking in the mirror, giving that same love you give to others to yourself. You are already good at it. It's just shifting.
Yeah. And just remembering that part. That's the part I feel like we do forget, is that we're so good at it. And often, like one of the exercises that I get my clients to do is to write down a list of the things that they're good at naturally, their gifts.
Mm, mm,
And then after you write that down, you reach out to other people that are close to you, 10 people, if you can, and ask them what they think your gifts are, what you're
mm,
good at. And sometimes they'll learn something, but often, more often than not, what happens is that they see that everything that I already said, others see the same thing,
mm.
just maybe using different words, but they're
Yeah,
describing the same thing. And how long does it take for us to finally get to a place where you truly love yourself?
mm.
As long as it takes,
As long as
right?
it's a journey.
It's
It's
a
a
journey. It's
journey.
not about the destination. It's about the
Hmm.
journey. It's about
Hmm.
your journey becoming. It's about my journey becoming, and it's about everyone
Hmm.
who is listening to this episode or watching to this episode.
Yeah,
It's your journey at becoming as well. Becoming who, in the
yeah,
end, is someone that we, as each and every individual, get to decide. And if we don't decide, somebody else will decide it for us.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That's
Ain't that the truth?
literally, we both lived through
Yeah.
that. So the last question I'm
Mm,
going to ask you is, what part of yourself are you finally allowing to exist without trying to
mm,
fix, hide, or prove anything to anyone anymore?
mm. I think showing up messy, I think I want to do all these things and I get super excited and then I burn myself out and then I don't even do it. And now I'm not at the point I'm still in that journey, but now it's just showing up and doing it messy. And so right now I'm very passionate about affirmations and leading meditations. And I have started a meditation club online. It's virtual. And I wanted it to be a specific way and super clean, but tech is not my best friend. And you know what? It's working. People are showing up. People are giving me grace. People are giving me tips in my emails on how to add links
Mhm.
and how and if we should shift the time. But 30 people signed up for my email. 10 people showed up the first time, 6 people showed up the second time, 8 people showed up the third time. And the fourth time, we'll see who shows up. And it's okay. One person, 2 people, maybe it's just me and I record it and I share, but I'm giving myself permission to show up. It's not is not as perfect or clean or aesthetic as I would like it to be.
Mm,
And it's still me expressing myself. I have been wanting to do this for over 5 years. Meditation has changed my life. And the one thing that changed it from a hobby to consistency for me was being able to meditate in community. So if I meditate in community once a week, once a month, once at a whatever cadence, I'm more likely to keep up with my daily routine. And it only enhances my own experience. And so to be able to share that and have other people who are also interested in the same thing is so, so cool. And so
mm,
I'm hoping that it'll be aesthetic and clean. And I know it will be. It's just takes some time. And I'm giving myself that permission to be messy right now.
mhm. Amazing. I love that because it really is about starting and not waiting to start until everything is perfect, until everything is figured out. Because if we do that, if we take the time to figure everything out before we start, we'll never start.
Hmm.
I mean,
And there's always something new. Like you said, I
exactly.
could figure it out perfectly and then it all changes.
It
So what's the
does.
point?
And that's also what AI has done. Many of us figured out how to do this online thing, and then boom, here's AI. Let's fuck shit up for you guys, and we get to learn. But now these tools are amazing if you know how to use them and not be
Mhm.
used by them and use them to your
Mhm.
benefit instead of your detriment. And it's definitely a skill. Like, I know my kids, they're already learning AI stuff at school because schools know it's not going anywhere. And anyone who does not have any experience with AI simply will not be able to get a job. And that is now the future for our kids. For us, it was if you didn't know how to use a computer, you couldn't get a job.
Computer
For our kids,
typing.
they're
Yeah.
expert at computers because they were using it before they were born, right? I'm sitting
Yeah.
with my belly and using my little computer, my phone. My kid is there in many ways learning how to do those things, and they come out experts in computers. And now it's going to be AI. And then for their kids, because every generation there's some like massive boom for their
Gonna be
kids.
different. Yeah.
I mean, like if maybe if you pay attention to movies, we'll know what it's gonna be because they were giving hints about AI coming. Like just in, I'm sure in everybody's minds, like in mine, it was gonna be 100 years from now that I wasn't gonna be alive for that. But humans, we are impatient, which is good and bad, and we rush things
Yeah.
just to get them done because life is short and yet life is long. So now here we are with AI,
Here
and
we
I know
are.
some people can't stand it and then others are learning and others are experts.
Yeah.
But same thing happened with the computers. There was people who were against them and eventually they had to learn to adapt. The same thing is
Yeah.
going to happen here. It's inevitable. This is human evolution. It just
Yeah.
happens so quickly, it feels like. Before you know, maybe even we're going to travel back and we're in the future or some kind of time travel in our lifetime. Who knows? Let's be optimistic. Let's go.
Yeah. Who knows?
Actually, if you had an opportunity to go to the future or the past, would you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think
Right?
depending on the day, I would answer differently. Today, I would be interested to go to the past.
That's a good answer.
Um, but yeah, depending on my mood.
That's a really good answer because today I definitely would not want to go anywhere. I'd be like, no, I just want to stay home and sleep. On a
Fair.
great day, I'd be like, where are we going?
Fair. Fair.
Right? And then some other days when I'm really like, I call it right up in the clouds and connected to the source, and I'd be like, I'm already there.
Fair.
And other times, like, well, why would I go? Because it will ruin the reality where I'm living now.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Are you
So
willing to risk that?
right? That's why I've never gone back to where I grew up back in Russia. I've never been back to Russia because I don't,
Hmm.
by choice, of course, right? Because I don't want to
Yeah.
go back and ruin my childhood memories because the way that I remember it is all beautiful. By going and seeing everything, that's a whole different experience. Like with adult eyes, where you no longer have those childlike filters of pure joy, love, and curiosity, right? So, anyways,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Radha, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your story, for sharing your life, your journey. I know so many women felt seen in your words today. So, ladies that are you're listening, make sure that you follow Radha, check her out, see what she's about, and maybe you find something that she can help you with as well. So go make sure you check her out, and I'll be sharing her socials right around the podcast. And if you love this episode, share it with a friend, share it with a best friend, with a sister, with your mother, because maybe they are ready to get their shit together and they are wanting to come and hang out and listen to these kind of conversations where it can really make a difference and you can start to see the connections in your own life and take action on those connections because knowledge without action, I'm sorry, but it's not going to change or do anything. It's no different than a library full of books that nobody's ever going to go to and read. And taking action on anything that we learn is going to be that needle that moves us closer to the
Yeah.
future, right? Moving that needle. And so make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episode because sometimes, like today, it was supposed to be live, but it ends up being recorded and you might not ever see it live on the podcast or on Facebook as a podcast. So make sure you subscribe and tune in and listen. And until next time, keep showing up, keep becoming, and remember that you are not behind. You are not too old. You're not too young. You're right on time and you're right exactly where you're meant to be. Sometimes we all need that reminder because we do forget. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Radha, so much for your time
Thank
and your
you.
energy and your light and your space and your story. Until next time, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.